rise and say pledge allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Christian, if you want to do a roll call, please.
Absolutely. Mr. Christensen. Mrs. Feist.
Here.
Mrs. Headley.
Here.
Mrs. Hoppy. Mrs. Janicek.
Here.
Mr. McGregor.
Here.
Mr. Modrak.
Here.
Mr. Scalzo.
Here.
Mrs. Turner.
Here.
8 present.
Thank you, sir. A motion to adopt tonight's agenda for business items.
So moved.
Mrs. Hoppy, second by
Second.
Mr. Scalzo. Public comments on tonight's agenda items are public? No? All right. And we'll move on. We have a presentation here tonight from Macero Group on our new elementary school. So, Marcy, if you want. Thank you.
Yeah, the mic should be on. Give it a little tap. Then no. I got it.
All right, good evening. So going through the update.
Yeah, it's not reaching. Use this. Is it on the side?
Yeah. Okay, all right. So, first and foremost, what you see here is we had our worker appreciation / safety lunch this past week. We're nearing 300 days of work without a recordable OSHA incident. And also, work is starting to ramp up, so we're getting more employees, more workers on site, and weather's breaking, so it was a good time to get everyone together, boost morale a little bit. Everyone's coming out of the doldrums of winter, and as you can see, it was very well received. It was a colder day that day, unfortunately, in a week of nice weather. That we picked the one day that was a little bit chilly, but brought everyone up into the garage. We had the heat. We had some heat going, so guys were able to get out of the cold weather and have a warm meal. So that was cool. That was appreciated. I think it's in the 14. Okay, so this areas A, B, or A, C, and D, and E and F, the classroom wings. Right here, you can see what you're looking at there is roof deck. So all the steel is up, and they are in the process of detailing that steel and putting the roof deck on. As you can see, it's almost done. Another shot here. In this picture, you can see on the upper level, or what I call the upper level, but there's 2 stories here. I'd say 80% of the footings are installed. What remains not installed is right here. We left that out on purpose to get the crane in here to erect this steel. So as we erect the steel on the far end in the gym and work our way out this way, we'll pick up them last foundations.
What that excavator is?
This one here?
Is going to be the
Yeah, this is the main entrance. Yeah, right here. You'll have your cafeteria, auditorium. Way back in here, we'll see in another picture is your gymnasium. Again, some pictures of classroom wings, E and F, and the progress there. You can keep flipping. Again, you're looking at F, E, and F there. Yeah, keep going. Okay, so on the ground floor in A and C, we moved into some actual interior work, starting with the fireproofing of the steel. So in the ground floors of A, C, and D, that's now complete. More of the fireproofing down through the building. Okay, now slabs in area E. It says ground floor slab, but it's actually a slab on deck because there's a crawl space underneath that. So you got your ground floor poured. In area E, we got the first floor poured. You can keep going.
This area is in kindergarten,
Yeah.
this will be your first grade.
Yeah, on areas, the ground floors and the classroom wings are the youngest kids in the age. As you go up, so does the age groups. Backfilling the wall. Now this is looking the other way, but this portion here is the separation, what I keep saying, the lower portion from the upper portion. So we're backfilling that wall, which will allow us to start resume setting steel on this side of the big wall. The last and final stair tower is complete. In area C, that's up by cafeteria.
No access to the music wing for 4, 5, and cafeteria.
First floor of A, C, and D are poured. So we've seen ground floor level. Now we're moving up to the first floor pours. Here's your gymnasium. So the grid you see there is the under slab drainage system, and they're starting to lay these walls here around the gym. This is also the storm shelter. So it's essentially its own building. It's not tied into the rest of the building. Again, completing bless you. Completing the backfilling of the large retaining wall, the main retaining wall in the building. First floor area E is poured out 100%. That's first and second grade. Yeah, second and third. Yeah, second and third. So this will be third floor or third grade. Yeah. And the second floor, which we poured the first portion of this floor this morning. So that's fourth grade. Yeah. Fifth grade in area F. Just the picture of the update what the internal courtyard will look like when it's all said and done. There'll be a rain garden there and some other exterior features. But now that all the steel's up in there, you could really get a sense of the scale of the courtyard. Okay, keep going. Okay, so as I was saying, upcoming work, we're going to complete the foundation installations and along with the undergrounds in the building, the plumbing and electrical undergrounds. The backfilling of that wall will complete. We'll resume steel hopefully this time next week. Setting some steel, continuing with the block. That's a major. Well, I keep mentioning that's a major activity. There's a lot of block work there that takes a lot of time. So there's probably 60 days, I want to say, 50 to 60 days worth of laying there. So that's a major activity, and it'll be a major milestone when that's complete. Continuing the fireproofing, going up through the building. We're done on the ground floor now. We finished up in the last day or so. And also today, we began the exterior and interior wall framing in classroom wing E. Like I said, we're nearing 300 days without an accident. Approximately 70% of the steel has been erected. 90% of the foundations are installed. 25% of the slabs, it's a little bit higher now that we poured some, but 25% of the slabs have been poured, and 75% of the undergrounds are in as of writing of this. So even through the cold and the wet and the rain and the snow, we were able to trudge ahead, which again is why we chose to celebrate the men and women that pulled us through the winter. Any questions with the slide so far?
RC, the shelter area, what's the capability, what tornado we had to build it to?
5. I think it's the
Five.
word. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's pretty substantial.
Yeah,
And the detailing of the rebar and the size of the rebar and those reinforced walls that are challenging for the engineers. It's challenging to build because it's something we don't do every day.
Let's let Cassie and Steve do the presentation.
Real quick. What about being on time? I always ask it every time, so.
Right now, we are redoing this, not redoing, but we're reviewing the schedule. We are behind, but collectively as a construction team and the group, we're coming and we're going to put together a recovery schedule to get back on time. So hopefully in next month, I'll have a better, more concrete answer.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, RC, and congratulations to the whole team on getting to this point and no safety incidents, and good job.
okay, we have Cassie and Sarah. Cassie's online. Hi, Cassie, you ready?
Yes, hi. Thank you for accommodating me virtually. The administrative team had just asked that I talk a little bit about change orders and be available to answer any questions. So that's kind of what this is, but feel free to ask questions along the way. If you could go to the next slide. So one of the things that I wanted to make sure, I know that through the design, you guys saw me and Dan and the other Dan a lot, and we don't necessarily say as much during construction, but I just wanted to review with you what we are doing during construction. One of the main things that we participate in is enforcing the contract, and that means that we're out on site frequently, looking at the things that are being built, helping to resolve issues, and weighing in on the contractor's responsibilities. We are the initial decision maker when it comes to disputes, and we've had to exercise that a few times already on your project. One of the other things that we are doing is submittal review. Submittals include all the product information and shop drawings for all the pieces and parts that end up going into your building. And it is a Herculean effort to go through submittals. One of the things that we pride ourselves with submittals is trying to look at all of the products and shop drawings along the way to make sure that we're trying to catch any issues that we can before it's on site and before it's being erected. So that's a really important process for us. And so Dan Dillo and Kayla, who you've met, are very much involved in the review of all of the architectural submittals, and our engineers are doing the engineering submittals. One of the other components of what we do is change order review. I know that RC gets a lot of the blame probably and a lot of the attention when it comes to talking about the change orders, because he does do that for you each month. But we're also involved in that process, and one of the first things that we're doing is trying to validate is something a change order. So we're looking at the contract documents, the specifications, the drawings, and validating whether a change order is actually appropriate. Assuming that we've determined that it is, we are looking at whether the change order can be avoided or minimized, and sometimes that means that we're looking for other ways to skin the cat, or other ways that we can do things to reduce the cost burden for a change order. And then once the change order is kind of vetted in terms of whether it's needed and whether it needs to move forward, we're also involved with Macero on reviewing the scope and the costs. So I wanted to make sure that you guys understood that we were involved in the change orders and the review of the change orders before they make it to you at the board level, and that we're doing our due diligence to try to validate that they are recommended for approval. One of the other things that we're doing during construction is that we're looking for efficiencies that can be made in the process. So a relatively small example of that is that when Dan Dillo was doing some shop drawing review, he found a location where the ceiling could be changed out and save a few bucks. So one of the change orders that you've already approved was for a credit where a ceiling was changed, and that was a way to save some money. So we are continuing to look out for ways that we can possibly make some modifications in the field that wouldn't result in any compromise, but would benefit you financially. Go ahead to the next slide. So one of the other things that I wanted to just kind of go over, this is something that we track internally, but there are different types of change orders. These are the categories of change orders that we track. One of the first one there is called an unforeseen condition. This is a change in the material or the physical scope as a result of concealed or unforeseen existing conditions, differing from what we indicated in the contract documents. In a renovation project, that's sometimes things that are hidden in the walls or above the ceilings. In your project, our biggest challenge with unforeseen conditions has been in the site work and in the soils. And so virtually all of your change orders have been a result of soil conditions. So as an example, some boulders that were found in the soils will be one of those examples. Sometimes on projects we have agency requested changes. You have not had any of those, knock on wood, on your project so far. It's when a authority having jurisdiction over the project, say a municipality or a code official or some regulating agency potentially decides in the field that they want to see something differently than what was on the approved drawings. We don't see that very often, but it's something that we keep track of. The next type of change order that we see are owner requested changes. And this is when there's an additional scope or a change in the material that differs from the contract documents. Oh geez, I see a typo there. But it's something that the owner requests. So as an example for you guys, you had a piece of kitchen equipment that you wanted to get installed over at NAMS early in the project, and then there were the asphalt walks up from the new parking area to NAMS. There's credits. Those would be things that we collectively decide either because of something that we've noticed in the field or something that you've decided to change that would save money. So eliminating the co-location trailer is an example of that. That was something that was included in the bid for the general contractor to provide a field trailer, and it's been working out really well with the house being used as a trailer for the contractors, and so that was something that was recommended as a credit. The next one that I want to talk about is an omission. This is a part of the project that unfortunately we all wish that didn't exist, but it does. So we want to explain to you what that is. That's something where something was inadvertently omitted from the scope of the contract documents by us or our team, and they are things that you would like to have in your project, and so they were missed. They were something that should have been in the contract documents, should have been included in the bid, and they weren't. An example of that is that we found a couple of lintels, steel lintels for above a window that were missed in the structural drawings, and in order to support the openings above the windows, those lintels need to be added, and that would be considered an omission. An error is something that when something's constructed incorrectly as a result of the contract documents. So we try like heck to avoid errors. That's part of why we review our shop drawings as closely as we do and why we stay as involved during the field. But this would be something where, the contractor built something differently than what was intended, but maybe and then it has to be redone in the field. The work either needs to be removed and redone, or it needs to be changed in a way that causes work. We have not seen any of those on your project. We want to go ahead to the next. So just as this is our tracking log that we keep internally, this is the Bethel Park change orders through tonight's meeting. And you can see the different categories there. The unforeseen conditions is the majority of the costs on this project. You'll see that there's a little bit in owner requested. There's nothing indicated in agency. There's nothing indicated in errors. There is some in omissions, and there is some in credits. So we're constantly keeping track of that on this job and our other jobs, because we do pride ourselves in having really low percentages, and I would say much better than our competitors in most cases. The unforeseen conditions are things that we can't control, and we try to minimize costs as much as possible with omissions. One of the things I want to just be clear about with omissions is that they are part of every project. We like to think that we're perfect, but we're not. So they are things that we miss. The other thing is that we don't profit from our omissions. Had those lintels, for instance, been included in the original bid, our fee would have been based on the project plus those lintels. When we miss something, we do not charge a fee for those. That's part of the way that we try to help the district not incur costs as associated with inflation. And we usually do have to do a lot of work on those omissions to make sure that they're as least costly as possible, and that we've exhausted all possible ways of addressing the issue without incurring additional costs. And once again, our work through the submittal review process is one of the ways that we try to keep both emissions and error percentages down. I know I went over a lot of stuff, and I can't see your faces to know whether you have questions or not. So please shout out if there's anything that I should go back to, or if you have any questions.
Cassie, we have Steve Massaro is also in the room tonight, and he wanted to offer a few additional comments on this change order process.
Thank you, Dr. Walsh.
Okay.
Thanks, Cassie. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Steve Massaro, President of Massaro Construction Management Services, but also President of Massaro Corporation. So we have a separate group that does the agency work that Bethel Park hired us to be your expert. But we also have a general construction business that competes with people like Rycon. In fact, we're going to be doing Cannon McMillan's. We're going to be the general trades contractor for Cannon McMillan's new elementary school starting in about a month or so. So what Cassie went through, I thought was really helpful. Certainly, we look at some data related to RFIs at this point. We have a good set of drawings. We did our own constructability review. So that means that Massaro Construction Management Services, we have people in-house that look at the drawings because architects and engineers put the drawings together. We look at it from a builder's perspective and scrub the drawings and produce that report. So obviously, the dirt and unforeseen issues are troublesome, but having only 180 or so RFIs at this point is pretty good for a job of this complexity and this size. So we feel good about that. And, we're certainly used to change orders that come out. And there's a ton of change orders or potential change orders that hit an exposure log that never even make it here because we do what Cassie spoke about and either reject them or send them back to the contractor because we don't believe that it's a valid change order or we don't agree with the number. Because we build every day, we have a really good cost database, so if anyone of the prime contractors, their change orders, if they're not broken down correctly, or even if they are, we review them to say, hey, that's dollars you have in for square footage of installing drywall and tape and finish. We're seeing it $3 lower than you're seeing it because on bid day everything's on sale, and change orders you're dealing with one contractor and their subcontractors. So that's how that's our job, and certainly. And your question, Vince, about schedule, we have to really tighten that up because when you do have unforeseen conditions, we're not where we thought we would be, but we need to rally the troops, workers, and having things like lunches do help in thanking the workers because how they feel is really important. If they're not happy or don't feel like it's a good job, you do tend to get more change orders, just what it is. So our job is to keep a really good vibe on the project. It's no different than any football team, basketball team, volleyball team. We want to keep everyone happy, keep the men and women that are doing the work, keep them happy. If we can do that, we can make up time, and we just need a little bit more time to pull the schedule back a little bit.
I was hoping I could share an example, if you don't mind, of one of the items like Stephen mentioned where something hits the potential change order list. When the shop drawings for the skylights were submitted, there was a coordination question. The contractor or the manufacturer of the skylights asked a question reconciling what was shown on the structural drawings and what was shown on the architectural drawings. And Daniel Dillo tried to work through that coordination item and gave them a response for how he thought that could be addressed. And their reaction was to submit a change order request for like $100,000. And we're like, whoa, we thought that this answer was going to just be, this is how you reconcile it, not here's some additional costs. So Daniel went back to the drawing board, worked with the skylight manufacturer and the contractor to work through that problem, and that item just gets crossed off the list. We now have a resolution to that coordination item that doesn't add any cost to the project.
I heard Cassie saying about she and her team lay eyes on every change order, and that making sure the board's aware that everybody on your side looks at it. So about how many different professionals are looking at change orders before the board gets it?
So yeah, I get the change orders come to me first, so it kind of goes through our filter first. I do what Draw does too. I run it through the specs and drawings and details and to determine if in fact it is a necessary change. I also look at the nuts and bolts of it, the man hours, the cost of everything. The beauty of it is I have the full force of our general trades side as well, and their whole team of estimating. If I have a question, I can simply call them on the phone, send them an email, say, hey, can you give me a look at this? Does this number make sense for, this amount of work to be done? The time it took to do it, does that make sense? So it runs through that filter, and at that point, I kick it over to Draw, and they do their due diligence as well, running it through comparison and with the contract documents. So it could be half of our estimating department at Macero, myself, Bernie, Draw's team, not only of in-house, but all their consulting engineers as well. We get them to chime in as well and review and comment. And if we come up with a, we don't agree with the change order on premise alone or some of the internal numbers, we kick it back to the contractor to revise and resubmit. If you look at some of the dates on some of these change orders, this process can take months. It could take a couple months, but we have to be right with the numbers.
And if you took the pyrite out of the conversation tonight, where are we, in your opinion, with?
Not only just the pyrite, but all the unforeseen, just unsuitable materials. One of the change orders presented tonight was for an undercut of the bus loop. We pulled out remnants of an old structure, of an old house. We were pulling siding and gutters and everything out, all the other organic garbage out of that hole. But if you take all that out of just dirt issues in general, we're less than 1% of the construction cost of change order so far.
And that, in your opinion, is about average, or?
Average for a project this size would be 3, 4, 5%. I think some industry standards say even 8% of a contract. The total price of construction is quote unquote acceptable, but I think as an industry, especially Draw, we aim for like 3%, 4%.
And one more question.
Actually, if I could interject, the last page of my slideshow with the summary, if you take the unforeseen conditions out, which are all associated with soil, you're actually in a credit. So if you take the owner requested, the omissions, compared to the credit, you're actually to the good. I mean, I know that sounds silly because we're talking about a huge amount of unforeseen conditions, but let's just call it a wash. They're really, all of the costs are associated with unforeseen conditions.
Yeah. So when the change orders you're looking at today would be for things that would potentially be installed like in the summer, or are you working months and months ahead? Are the contractors asking you for clarification or changes for things that are happening? Because you talked about it taking 2 months to get it to us for the board for their approval.
Yeah,
What's the expectation on these things when we don't want to hold the project up, in other words?
correct. So, yeah, the items that you're referencing to, something outside of an unforeseen dirt condition, is usually months out. So we have that time. We're not holding up contractors. If I thought a change order had the potential to hold up work, I'd be working with several people on this board saying we need to get this passed. Maybe could we call a special session to vote on this and get this in front of the board, because it'll start to hold up work.
And we,
I think to elaborate on that though, timely decisions on the board side, we don't want to push you under the gun to make decisions, but at the same time, a lot of the products that do require change orders need to be ordered in advance, or they need to be engineered, or they need to be, some sort of a submittal needs to be made for them. So, RC, I think, does a pretty good job of indicating when this is, supremely time sensitive, but in general, timely decisions from the board are important to keep the process moving and not have additional delays. When the contractors submit their change order requests, they're based on kind of today's dollars, not next year's dollars, right?
Yeah, and also your unforeseen conditions, your dirt conditions, when we encounter those problems, we kind of have to take care of them as they show up. So that's why in the contract, we build in unit costs for those activities. So essentially, those costs are pre-negotiated at time of contract signing, just in case we avoid that delay. So hey, we hit pyrite, now it's like, okay, now what do we do? Oh, we gotta wait, there's no waiting there. We could, because of the cost was predetermined and pre-negotiated. Yeah.
I'll add that we meet every 2 weeks for just a change event order, myself, Tony, and the team, on-site team. So we know, if there's something immediate, RC brings it to my attention quickly. But when things are items that need attention, every 2 weeks we're looking at it. There are things that disappear. He'll put it on the board. Cassie and the team will do whatever they do, and all of a sudden it disappears. New things will come up, so we're watching it on a weekly basis, but every 2 weeks we have a formalized process to make sure that there's no surprises that'll pop up. And RC will know that we bulldog for the district to say, no, we're not going to accept that. And RC goes to bat for us to say no, because there are some times that the subs will drag on and not give a price. They'll give them a timeline and say, if we don't have it by then, you're assuming the cost.
I got these here. This is your signature then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Robert Schultz.
That's what I figured. Just
But only my mother calls me Robert.
Cassie and RC, this question, one last question that I have. I said it was last before, but now it's really the last one. Is it possible for a contractor to look at a specification in the drawings, but buy something inferior and install it without you guys knowing, to save money?
No.
The simple answer is no. The way the specs are written, the way the drawings are written, and the way the contracts are written, and through submittal review, Macero does a cursory review of all the submittals that come in just to make sure that they're complete and they are the product that is specified. And then the more detailed and the nuts and bolts of the review is the design team, the engineers and the architects.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from the board?
we just want to go right into this now. Since we're on the subject, we'll just go down and take the discussion on it. So, Mrs. Wolf-Turner.
A couple of questions.
You bet. What's up?
First off, Cassie, I have a question for you. The omissions are part of every project. I'm still staring at one right now for this tonight for storm shelter drawing revisions. There were several of us sitting on this board tonight that were in the storm shelter meetings. So how did we miss something when we were in the storm shelter meetings and then they came back to us and told us they had to be an EF5 certification, and now we're saying there was something omitted? How does that become the board's financial problem compared to someone else's?
So I'm not going to talk specifically about the omissions, but those drawings, because I don't have all the technical information, but the kinds of things that we're talking about are some reinforcing steel. Those masonry walls are full of rebar, and the engineer draws several different, they draw plans, they draw sections, and they try to cover every condition in their reinforcing requirements. When the shop drawings for the steel come through and they find that maybe there was a condition or a location where the rebar wasn't explicitly called out. We do not make a representation of every inch of the wall. So it's that kind of miscellaneous things that were missed were some reinforcing steel, I believe, in the walls. Now, the financial burden for an omission is the district's. Had it been in the original drawings, you would have paid for it on bid day. It wasn't in the original drawing, so it wasn't part of the base bid. Now you have to pay for it as part of a change order. You don't get it for free.
Okay. Next question is, this is probably more for Cassie than RC. Has the aluminum for the paneling been ordered? Nobody's answered this question. I've asked it 3 times in 3 months of meetings. Has the aluminum for the outside of the building been ordered?
I know it's been released, and I've asked Rycon repeatedly in meetings, and have not gone.
There's a large concern on where that aluminum is now coming from.
Absolutely.
Yes, RC, I believe that Daniel, or one of the contractors, said that it was locally sourced from the United States. That was the answer that I heard, that it was not, it was sitting in the United States. It may not have been shipped, but that's what we were told.
The meeting that we had on Thursday, we asked that specific question, and everyone stated that they did not believe that it was going to be a inflation. That they anticipate that there would be no, because it's been released. Like our steel's been sitting in trucks in Erie for weeks. The same is true for the aluminum cladding. There's a lot of aluminum in our building, but all of the contractors, RC asked all of them. None of them said that they thought that was going to be a problem.
Okay, can we get an update at least next week on that? That's a large concern. That, I mean, as I'm staring at this budget and these numbers, no matter if it's from you guys and your overages or Cassie and the overages, after tonight we have $1 million left in contingency fees out of $3.2 million. We know a lot of that is soil content. Can anybody answer for me if we're done moving soil? So the change order tonight for $178,593 is not the last change order we're going to find for soil.
I can't promise that, no.
That undercut of the bus loop, when you look at that number, unfortunately, a lot of that number is labor and machinery.
Yeah, I was going to
Unfortunately.
ask that next question because it's not detailed out. I had at least asked, and several others had agreed. We wanted a more detailed content of where this money is going. And I know you're not doing it, you're getting it from Rycon, so maybe that's the next conversation Dr. Krasinski and Dr. Walsh need to have, because that's a lot.
These numbers, again, are...
And this should be directed at you, but it is because...
No, that's fine. That's fine. This particular change order, since it was strictly an undercut of unsuitable soil, it's... And there's unit cost in the contract for that. It's
Correct.
It's a volume times the number equals a cost. That volume of material is documented by Macero witnesses it as it's happening. ECS is there on site witnessing and documenting it, and Nice Water's keeping track of their numbers as well. So it's verified 3 different times, and it's. I can give you a backup. That's certainly no problem. I have that. But in this particular instance, it's simply A times B equals C.
Did you have this 1,550 cubic yards?
I'm sorry? Yeah, that's approximately, that's how much material was removed out of the hole. It was approximately 12 feet deep by X feet long. I don't remember.
And this is unsuitable soil, or is this the other materials you were removing?
This was unsuitable soil.
This is all unsuitable soil?
Yeah.
Whatever, Dr. K said that building, whatever building is underground.
Yeah, I didn't know if that was included
It was
in that.
it was the same dump site that
It was
they
all,
used.
yeah, it was all junk material that had to
Okay,
come out.
that's what I wanted to know.
Yeah.
We're not talking the pyrite anymore. We're talking this is
Not in
just-
this location. This
Okay.
was on a different part of the site.
This was closer to the old baseball field and soccer field.
And that what was Can we still look at where the core borings were compared to this to see why that did not come up in the core borings? Do you remember, Dr. Walsh, if we went that far down in the core borings?
I don't know. That was the engineers did that work. I mean, they could have done 1,500 or 500. I don't know.
Yeah, we don't know that
No matter what
number.
happens, it's there. Whether they saw it in 2021, 2022, or 2026, we still got to get it out of there and fixed.
Agree, it's just, we're hitting numbers that are, we've got 15 months left on this project, and
Yeah,
we're.
and I think my intention with having Macero and Draw here tonight was to try and give the board a little confidence that we are not getting robbed, that they are watching the numbers as closely as you are. There is attentive to these change orders as you are. They're not going to let anything slide through to pad somebody's pocket. It's a real careful process, and I wanted you to hear that tonight from both these groups, that you picked your contractor, your architect, your construction management firm, they're working for us. And yeah, it's a lot of money, and the money's going quick on these change orders. But back to what we said about 10 minutes ago, take the pyrite out of the situation. We're actually dealing in positive numbers. It's a good set of plans. We're gonna have these things come through. It's gonna feel uncomfortable that we shouldn't have these kinds of changes when you have a new building design. How did you miss that? Those are the classic questions, but I was hoping that tonight would have accomplished, at minimum, to give you a sense of trust that they have a good team checking this. When it gets to you, you can rely on that information and not be anxious or worried that we're getting robbed.
And I want that, but I also want more the people that entrusted us with all of this to understand that we're asking the questions too. We're just not voting yay or nay. We're asking the questions so that everybody is informed about what's going on.
I just want to say that I appreciate all of the information that you bring us every meeting, and Cassie at Draw, all of the information from Draw, Dr. K, everybody involved in this, and I feel comfortable and confident that you are the professionals. Everything you have done to date has been thorough. Have not tried to deceive us, have not refused to answer questions or provide information. So I agree, Dr. Walsh. I think that I don't want to have to look through pages of orders of buckets of screws or whatever the heck. Like, it's going through so many layers and so many people. I agree. I'm confident that we are not getting robbed or anybody is going to Tahiti on our dime or anything. And I agree, it is disconcerting, right, to have to deal with $2 million worth of unsuitable soil issues. I think the only thing I would say is if we get to some point where we need to dial something else back, I am certain you will let us know. Like, oh, we just uncovered another issue. We have to trim something. Something else has to go.
Yeah.
Because you're correct. We are where we are, and that issue, we have to deal with it with whatever it costs. So that might mean something else has to come off later. But I appreciate all of your professionalism from everyone involved in this process, internally and externally.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Just to piggyback off something Dr. Walsh said, we being Macero and Draw, we've rejected probably close to $800,000 worth of change orders that were submitted that we have rejected. So
Those
I know. I think
sometimes really nice to hear too, just because all we're seeing is the
right.
other end
Understood.
of it. So thank
Understood.
you.
We take this, I know I do, I take this very seriously. This pyrite business has kept me up at night, and I've tried to do everything in my power to make it as painless as I possibly can for the district, because, you know, we are you. This is every bit as my project as it is yours.
Anything else in regards to the
question just out of my own curiosity. The last change order, I am just curious, what is a detectable warning surface?
It is when you come to a end of a sidewalk and you're entering a traffic lane, the yellow bumpy surface.
Yes.
That's what they are.
Thank you so much. I was
welcome.
imagining like storm shelter.
technically-
Like,
it's
is
a
it going to tell
truncated
us
cone.
a tornado's coming? Okay. Thank you.
Anything else for Cassie or RC or Mr. Massaro? Thank you, gentlemen. Again, we all have our own thoughts, and I appreciate your willingness to try to make us all feel comfortable as we're moving forward, because repeating, it is a lot of money, and I know you guys are coming from, but, you know, we're spending a lot of money here. We want to make sure it's done right,
Absolutely.
so,
Whatever you need.
all right? Nothing else? We're done with Cassie and the Massaro group?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cassie.
The backup for the change orders is in the folders at your tables there this evening. And behind that will be an updated copy of the facilities master plan. This will be update number 4.0 from where we started back in 2021 with the Hayes Design Group's master plan. This is fourth iteration. And what's updated, what's changed now is we've turned more to a spreadsheet style of tracking where certain projects that are on the docket to be renovated, updated, fixed, replaced, or installed is in there with a timeline and a projected cost. And then on the back, we have some updated numbers on all of the capital project investments that the board has been making since 2021. That document is also linked for folks who are watching from home. You can see that on board docs with an updated facilities master plan. And my thanks to Dr. Korsinski and Mr. Pictionary for having helped update this and keep this as accurate as possible with where various projects are. And as we make decisions moving forward in terms of other budgetary priorities, we can always move certain capital projects up or down the timeline, depending on where the financial resources stand at any given time or any given moment.
Could I ask a quick question?
Yes.
In the chart, I was curious what the shaded boxes are in the projected year columns. They're like that pinkish or brownish, or I didn't know if that meant anything.
Yeah, that's just kind of a priority for us.
Oh, okay.
It's one of those things where, as we were talking as a group, these are the priorities that we want to try to accomplish. And then the ones that are not shaded is still a priority, but if it's something that has to go, that's something that we probably would have to talk about.
Okay. And do we have to pave Blackhawk Drive?
Yeah,
And is-
the
Was that on there?
Yeah.
The RFP is,
All right. I'm just saying, I went through there. I go through there every night for the stage crew pickup, and I was like, oh, goodness. Okay.
yeah, I just met with
Thank you.
Vasco, a organization this week to get estimates with the intention of the specs to be done between July 1st and August 1st, so we're waiting for bids to come in.
And that's not just Black Hawk Drive, though.
No, it's everything. The drive, the parking lots, Black Hawk Drive, all the way out to the front street.
And then what about IMS?
Not IMS this year, no. We want to wait and get all the construction done, get all that stuff done and off of our, and then
Okay, that
then it
makes
can come
sense. I
back.
just didn't know if IMS was.
So that'll be
Is our portion of the Y parking lot included in that?
possibly. Or power buying might be a factor, so.
And then that would include Perky too, or no?
Maybe.
Okay.
I'm having a bid them out in different ways, so.
Okay. Any other questions on that update for you? I mean, and obviously, we can answer them anytime down the road since You're just getting a hand copy here tonight to examine. We'll be around if you have any questions further along.
Is there? Before we get into the next thing, I just have one question. Is there any updates on IMS?
On renovation?
Yes.
No, there hasn't been enough progress. We agreed with SiteLogic to have them come in April with updates on Phase 3 work. Any other questions? Okay, at the January, I think it was January board meeting, we had a number of policies that were up for review and first readings. This one, 702.1, was pulled out and referred to Facilities Committee for some further discussion. So I put it on tonight's agenda, being the Facilities Committee meeting, for discussion about this. The genesis was actually from board conversation 5 or 6 months ago about having some policy to guide the actions of the community or community members or even school district members who want to name facilities or fields or rooms after someone or some organization. It could also even include like sponsorships and so forth. So this is our, this policy was sort of our creation in line with that conversation that happened 4 or 5 months ago. And this hasn't even gone out for a reading yet. That's why it's still in a very draft form. The one part that I think I had said when we first brought this up 4 or 5 months ago was that we wanted to make sure that the naming rights policy guided the decision-making of the administration and the board on why or what purpose the naming would be for, some honorary purpose or some financial purchase of naming rights for advertising purposes and so forth. Make that clear and transparent up front. And then it should be revenue neutral for the district if it was just an honorary thing, so that it wouldn't cost the district any money to make an honorary name. We just saw, for instance, that Perky Field, named for the coach years previous, came with money from the Perky family to do not just the signage and the name, but also upgrade the facility and keep it in top shape. I think I was using the phrase "a big check" when I brought it up the last time, that it would come, somebody's request would come with a big check. So is there any other feedback on this policy or thoughts or opinions about this? Okay, Mrs. Hoppy, it'll be in the tracker for you next time you have a lunch break. Which brings up the last item. Mr. Modrak, did you want to put a context around this? Because I think you've been dealing with this longer than...
Yes, we've had a couple casual conversations based on the use of metal detectors within the Bethel Park School District. Some of us are aware, or I think all of us should be aware, that we did purchase 2 detectors a few years ago, but they've really never been fully implemented, and we've really never seen a full formal plan of their purpose and their use. So in discussion with Dr. Welsh and Dr. Krasinski, just asking to some more of a formalized policy, more of a formalized plan that we would have in the district for the use, and to see, one, to start off with the 9 of us, if this is something we as a board agree to, and then also potentially down the road through this meeting and any public discussion is whether the community as a whole would be favorable moving forward to it as a device to keep our staff and students and our community safer when they're entering our building. So Dr. Walsh had presented this for us to review and discuss.
Yeah, and we got some support from the the safety committee chair, and from our school police officer, Officer Gaulis, who gave me some information put towards this piece, and they also consulted with the West Jefferson Hills School District because they've been using theirs now for several years and have it down pretty smooth everyday process that they screen every day. This is also true in the Ringgold School District. Every day, everybody, every bag, everything's screened. The proposal we have here was just for IMS and the high school. Questions?
How long would it take the 1,300 students in the high school to pass through just one metal detector?
With just
I'm
one,
just
it
curious.
could take hours. Yeah, so
That's what I'm thinking.
West Jeff uses 6 units, and it takes them 15 to 20 minutes to get 900 people through it.
2 entrances.
Yeah, 6 units.
Okay, so would this proposal be for purchasing more metal detectors?
Correct.
Or not?
Yeah, right. So you'll see an equipment needed, item A. So we already own 2, but we would need quite a number more.
I see.
In order to complete this and do it in a orderly but timely fashion.
Got it. Thank you.
Question, did anybody reach out, sorry, go ahead. Did anybody reach out to Gateway? I know they're using it also.
No, no one talked to Gateway. I mean, I talked to Butler. We used them at Seneca Valley, where I was for 13 years. We didn't do it daily. Our neighbors, Mars, did. It's labor intensive. Timing is not your friend, and so you need units per volume. You can make a mathematical computation out of it. The training that you have to do to your police force, your security guards, and then you have to use staff. You can't get around that, and so you have to make agreements with the staff that they can leave early. If this was a random situation, but if it's a daily situation, obviously you're adding labor to it.
Okay. I have a
Yes,
couple-
Buffy, I would have let you. I would have let you go home early if you would have been on the search staff.
I have a couple questions. I just wanted to, because some of this talks about how to do a consistent random search. So I'm not sure if, are we being recommended that that's what we do, or are we being recommended that we screen everybody every day?
Thank
So
you,
I think
Mrs.
there's
Janicek. That
gradations
was
of
my
it,
question.
But the recommendation that we're making is that we have enough units to do everybody every day.
If we need
enough
to,
staff
or
to get it
decide
done in
to.
a timely fashion. However, as Dr. Korsinski said, there are also lower gradations. You could do
Okay.
every 6th person in line, or just do a random search, or do it not every day. Those kinds
Okay.
of things. So you would cut down on the amount of labor or staff time that would be involved.
Okay,
and disruption. I mean, there are all kind of different ways to do randoms,
right.
and you have to train the staff to be prepared for
Yes.
that.
I wanted to say, I previously have not been in favor, as Mr. Modrak knows. But, in the last 10 years, not here in our district, but it seems to have, we seem to see increasing in the country. Like 10 years ago, it was somebody outside coming in. And it's kind of not like that anymore. So that's kind of the reality. And I need to accept that that's the reality. I do want to say, in terms of training, which relates also to the accommodations and adaptations, as well as the staffing. Obviously, there are students that are easily identifiable as potentially having problems with a new routine or the randomness, if we do random. Large crowds. Like, there are groups of students whom you guys can quickly identify as needing walkthroughs, training, special handling, prepping, all of those things. But I'm also going to say there are students who aren't in a designated classroom who have disabilities or trauma histories. And I think sometimes we forget that students who haven't yet risen to anyone's attention and don't have an IEP and don't have a 504 may still have a response to being reminded of a family trauma, or, you know what I mean? And disabilities and developmental disabilities. And I think for me, it would be vital for our school police officers, our SRO, any staff working these machines, all the administrators, and hopefully that's phase one, and maybe phase two can be every staff, bus drivers, bus aides, everybody, a training specifically about, particularly I'd recommend Autism Connection PA because they get it, the training about brain studies and how students who have autism think and process, how someone with an intellectual disability may also have motor planning differences, right? So they can't immediately comply, but that doesn't mean that they're disrespectful. Like those sorts of things, because I think that's a need kind of everywhere, not just here, but it could go bad here, right?
So if I can just add that you already have a policy on searches, and you already have a policy on canine searches. The information that would be included in the weapons detection, wherever we place this, 226, 226.2, wherever we place this, there are significant procedures in ARs that would be in there, like search 1 if it does, search 2 if it does, search 3. There are a number of them randomized. I mean, because of the spirit of the law, random is random. You pick every fifth person, and you got to keep that, because if you don't, then you suffer the consequence of the opposite. So there are a number of practices that we can put into policy to protect the district as well as the end user who is having the search done on them. You're looking for a weapon. You're not looking for a basketball. So you go through the metal detector. If it goes off, there's another procedure. If it clear and it goes off again, there's another procedure. You're taken to a room, things of that nature. So.
Right. And I have trust in that. I'm talking about a student reacting in a way that the officer who's watching all of this finds to be suspicious.
Well,
right? Like, I think my concern is that we're increasing the daily contact of every student with a security force. And I just want to make sure that those folks thoroughly understand not everybody who can't look you in the eyes is lying to you, and all of those things.
This happens so fast that I'm not going to say it's not going to happen, but it happens so quickly that they're moving in. And I can share with you from experience, when the first 3 kids go through, every kid knows because it goes on text message.
It does, but also.
Yeah. And so those individuals, the individuals of the staff, I used to use guidance counselors. I used to use people who knew how to work around kids who are in distress. We'll do the same thing.
Okay.
Just to keep in mind, too, that this is not a catch-all. This is not 100%. This is just another layer to technology that's available to us, along with our SROs, along with our counseling, pointing to Mr. Villani over, along to his staff, referring to the high school, and some of us know that because we work in that area. This is just all, and you've already had relationships you've developed or developing. But again, this is just another layer to make our buildings as possibly safe as possible. This is not never a guarantee, and there's some other angles to around this, but it could be proven to be effective, but there is a cost to it. All right, a financial cost, also a cost to the experience of our students and our staff, but it is another tool available to us to make our buildings as safe as possible. But again, Mrs. Janisak, also being part of that, as I know Dr. K and Mr. Villani have done it in their previous jobs, there is all this work laid out ahead of time with the kids to make sure their experience and knowledge of it is coming through. And honestly, I like this because my previous experience, we didn't really have the word about the amnesty box. You know, again, it kind of went without saying, but that specific word. You know, and I know I had experience where a student did do that. So the idea was to keep the building safe and make the kids feel safe and the staff. So those things are worked out with all these other issues involved. But we had a conversation in our safety meeting, and the one officer was saying it's not a guarantee, and we're not proposing it. Or I should say, we're not proposing it as a guarantee, just another layer that adds on there. One of our districts just recently, in it's Buffy's district of Shar Valley, now put the man gate down at front as another layer to their security plan. So just something for us to consider, give you time to look at all of it. But please keep in mind there is an expense to it that we're going to have to address. Ladies?
Go first.
So with the time period that it would take to scan the kids, would the classes be adjusted, like shortened periods, or how would we go about that? I mean, I know we could do hours or days, but,
Yeah, I don't think I've gotten that far yet.
okay, that's fine.
But, yeah, I guess we would maybe potentially unload sooner than we do, so we're starting earlier, but we really haven't gone anywhere past just giving you the procedures and the costs and manpower, people
Yeah.
power that we would need to make it happen.
If you do it randomly, every fifth kid, every third bus, we, from experience, the number of years I did it at Seneca, it creeps into first period, but you're not missing first period. So you just have to modify the time. You have to actually have a line manager there you're not looking in every single nook and cranny for a weapon. A weapon doesn't fit in a makeup bag per se, but there's a lot of coordination to it, and as I shared with Dr. Walsh, not necessarily do you have to have people just in the front lobby, but you have to have people at the other exits so that they're not trying to sneak in. And so it's a very labor coordination. Everybody's hands-on. So I would recommend starting slow, trying the random first, and then working up into if you want to do the full scale.
You like it?
What's that?
You like it?
Did I like it? It wasn't my opinion to like it. I was the principal when I was told what to do.
Okay, so did you think it was effective?
We found things. Never did we find a gun, but we
Yeah.
did find weapons.
Maybe the
We
fear?
found some other things.
Yeah.
We did have an amnesty box, and it worked. There were things or it just never made it in the school. It was left
Yeah.
in their cars.
And that's the goal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my concern here is we're bringing them into school in the morning and we're scanning them. What are we doing at night for all those people that are in and out of those buildings every night? Because that can come in if we're not scanning.
And that's one of the faults of this. Again, using the fact that I was at West Jeff when we implemented it out there, there are faults. It's not a perfect system, all right? And these are things we'd have to work out in our whole security plan for the two buildings that we were
That's
referring to.
that's a large
But
concern.
I believe Dr. Krasinski just said we're taking those baby steps first. The first being is our panel discussion here publicly, and to see what our thoughts are, and then see what we think it's worthwhile to move forward with.
I would also ask that they include the night activities, especially that
It's-
those two buildings are going.
Yeah.
What are the baby steps to start that process too? Because that is another
And
situation.
again, it's an area of concern. I can go over 50 of them real quick professionally, but right now we just want to, my goal was just to bring it up to get the conversation going, and that will be down the road as if we decide to move forward.
Okay.
And also, I asked our solicitor just to, on the districts that her firm represents, just to get a little feel for how many other districts within Western PA, which you covered, just to see where, because not everywhere, I go on different websites of districts that I know that are using them, but I couldn't find some type of public notification or a process their students have to go through. And that may be beneficial for us to see. But Mrs. Janisic said it, things kind of changed these last 10 years. And I can go historically, where we did remove a handgun out of IMS 25 years ago. So it's not that it can't happen, but again, just repeating another layer to our overall security plan. So thank you, Dr. Walsh.
Okay. The last piece there is just those change orders. I think our hope was that it would get moved to consent, barring there are any questions or concerns about it. And there's no need to vote, just to approve it, to move to the consent for next week's approval?
Me and Jenny actually moved it on for next meeting at 7 o'clock, just for it to be
Oh.
there to be included in.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, yep.
Okay, thank you. That's it.
Anything else? Okay, take 5 and come right back.
We need to